Right. All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Sandy Ballard, the Badass Business Coach. Thanks for being here. And this is week 288 of the podcast, No More Excuses. Yes, Beth, you just said, wow, right? That is, I don't even know, way over 5.5 years of weekly podcasts. And I appreciate you guys being here, for listening, and for sharing this podcast with others. And as always, check out my website, badassbusiness.coach. There are some free worksheets on there, downloads, these podcasts, and a lot more of just kind of cool, good information. And as always, again, don't forget to follow me on social media to continue the challenge and to keep you thinking and growing. And I mentioned Beth, so that's a little secret. This week, or today, I should say, I have a guest on here. So I'll get to her in a second, but I want to touch on, recap on last week's podcast, which we talked about is a good use of your time, making sure what you're doing, which on your to-do list, especially if it keeps getting carried over from week to week to week, is it on there? For a reason, should you be doing it? What is a good use of your time? Because time is money. And last Wednesday, I posted an article from Inc. magazine talking about time is money and what is a good use of your time, because you cannot continue to grow and level up, which level up is the theme for this year. You cannot continue to level up if you're wasting your time and if you're paying yourself a lower rate. So this week, like I mentioned, Beth Carell, she is a financial advisor with Legacy Wealth. I want to get this right. Legacy Wealth Partners at Raymond James. Yes. And she is more than a financial advisor. She's a friend. She's a client. She's an all-around badass, right? Am I allowed to say that?
You can.
So she is going to give you, because we're starting the fourth quarter, can you believe it? This is crazy. She's going to give you year-end financial planning tips. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth, and there you go. So welcome, Beth.
Well, thank you, Sandy, and thanks for that introduction. So yeah, you and I have known each other for a very long time and got reintroduced to each other here more recently, but I'm certainly excited to be your client too as well, and part of your coaching system. So thanks. And thanks for the introduction to be on the podcast. So the topic of today is, since we're entering into the last quarter, and who would really believe that it's almost October, right? This year seems to, the older I get, the faster these years fly by. But in the fourth quarter, there are certain things as a financial advisor, and a little bit about some of the things I do. I'm a certified financial planner and a certified divorce financial analyst. So I help people going through the divorce process or considering going through the process, what their expectations could be financially, and also help work with their attorney and negotiating a better financial outcome. And it's been very exciting. I get to meet a lot of very exciting and interesting people. But we all have one thing in common, and that is we all want to kind of retire comfortably, and that might be the $1,000,000 question. And how do we get from here to there? And in a nutshell, what it is good financial planning. And financial planning is not kind of a one and done plan. It's very dynamic. It's very fluid. Life changes, people change, jobs change, spouses change. I mean, life is all about change. And what can we do to tailor our financial plan to achieve all of our goals and objectives, but also be fluid. So some of the things that I work with my clients during the fourth quarter is obviously review, are you maxing out your retirement plan contributions if you can? Are you really taking advantage of that employer match and getting as much of that as possible? I take a look at, did you fully fund, if you have kids, their 529 accounts? And here in the state of Indiana, that would be a 20% state tax credit up to the maximum of a $5,000 for Indiana state tax credit. Now, credit is more exciting and more meaningful than a deduction, certainly, but I take a look at 529 account funding. Also, your IRA, if you are maxing out your 401k or your 403b or your company sponsored retirement plan, and you still have excess cash, why not make an IRA contribution, or right now, while it's still available, a backdoor Roth contribution? Those are kind of complicated and can be complicated topics, especially if you're a high income earner. But there are certain provisions in Biden's tax plan here going in that may get passed, may not get passed. There's more information that's coming that may eliminate or severely restrict backdoor Roth contributions. There's quite a bit in this that may undo some of the planning that has been done in the past. But hey, every administration comes through with their own policies and tax plan going forward, and we reevaluate the financial plan, and then we move forward with the new rules. So that's the importance of having such a dynamic plan. One of the other things that we do is, or I do, is make sure that, especially if there's been changes in the family structure and or spouses, is we review beneficiary designations to make sure that if we have gone through a family change, that we're not leaving that IRA to the ex-spouse. That would upend a lot of financial planning right there, especially if there's kids involved. So take a look at that. When's the last time that you've had your insurance policy reviewed? Do you have enough? Do you have too much? Is it too costly? What are the terms? If it is a term, is it going to expire? Is it better to take a look at a new premium right now? So that might be something you do in year end. Always look at your portfolio to make sure that the investments are on track to help you achieve what it is you want your goals to be. We've had a lot of volatility. Typically, September is a volatile month in the market, and this year is no different. We've had quite a bit of volatility. Can you withstand that going forward? With some of the Biden tax plan, I've seen and heard people are running to go ahead and capitalize on those capital gains, the long-term capital gains. That may be necessary, it may be not, depending upon what is passed. But I understand long-term capital gains tax rates may be going up. So what do you need to do about that? What's been going on all year long with your portfolio? Do you have gains that you need to offset with losses? Or do you have tax forward period losses that you need to capture some gains this year to offset that? So those are certain things that we take a look at. If you have, charity, you have inclined to make charitable contributions, and if you haven't fully funded those for the year, suggest that you do that. Right now, donor advised funds is something that is being talked about considerably. The tax benefits of establishing a donor advised funds are better than just making the charitable contribution with stock and or cash. There's also a donor advised fund you control. Your family can then be involved if you want to make it a family endeavor. And you can open up a donor advised fund a lot of times for $10,000, and you can have it actively managed and reap the rewards, especially that the money can go to charity. And I don't know if anybody.
My head's spinning already.
And I don't know if you have any viewers that would be 70 and a half,
Yeah.
right? But if you are 70 and a half and you're inclined to having to take your required mandatory distribution, why not make that directly to the charity of your choice? That way the charity gets 100% of the dollars as opposed to.
Well, I have to say, my oldest client just turned 70. So, I mean,
there you go.
Yeah,
So,
I hope I have listeners that are
70.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something that's special just for them because of their age.
Okay, so what's the biggest misnomer about working with a financial advisor? Because I know, even though it's like, you have to have a lot of money, you have to have what? So what kind of myth buster or misnomer? Yeah.
Well, I've heard a couple. I've heard that you have to have a lot of money to have a financial advisor. I've heard that they're costly, that they're very expensive to have. Number three, do they really have my best interest at heart? Are they a fiduciary?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to all three of those is really, it depends.
Okay.
It depends upon the financial advisor and the practice that they have. They may have established practice minimums. I have a multi-generational practice, so I haven't established a minimum because I love watching the younger generations here grow and take their inheritance and build and build and plan for their financial future. So, and you have to start somewhere. And when do you learn the disciplines of how to invest and how to save for the long term? Well, you do that gradually over time, not after you have made the minimum that somebody wants you to have. So I don't have a minimum, but there again, that answer is it depends on the business that you go to. The second part of that is, oh, they're expensive. They charge a lot of fees. Where again, the answer is that depends, because it depends upon the type of practice that financial advisor has. A lot of times it's fees under management. They charge a percentage. Some advisors charge a commission, depending upon whether they're a fiduciary or not. So, although those are a lot of words, and
Yeah.
and then the third part is, do they have my best interest at heart? I really don't know that. What does that mean? And that means, is your financial advisor a fiduciary? Only if they are credentialed, if they have a higher designation rather than standard regulatory licenses, could they be considered a fiduciary and therefore are held to a much higher standard than just the regulatory requirements. So I would encourage anybody to ask their financial advisor, are you a fiduciary? Do you have my best interest at the first and foremost? Do you have higher credentials? And if not, you should seek one out that does.
Okay. So kind of the recap for, end of the year financial advising, leveling up, and making sure what you're doing is good use for your time, and then taking that money and doing something good with it to save you money at the end and start investing. I like what you said. You just have to start somewhere versus kind of after the fact. So it's sort of what I help coach my clients. Take that step, and baby steps, it can be a little bit at a time. So I love what you said about things to look for: changes in family, job, status, situation, and anything. Inheritance and donations, those are huge, because a lot of people get inheritance, they just put it in their bank.
Yeah, I always say that money is always in motion.
Yes, money is always.
Life is always changing, and anything you do in life always involves money. So you want to make sure that you're a good caretaker, that you yourself as an investor, that you're a fiduciary over your own investing future.
Right.
Ask good questions, be invested, and the good things happen.
Oh, and okay, last question. Well, sort of last question. Can you help people outside? Because you're located in Indianapolis, Indiana. So what can you help people outside of Indiana, outside of the country? Because I do have listeners all over the world. So what's your can you, and then if not, what's your advice?
Yes, I can. All I have to do is be registered. If I'm not already registered in your state, it's just get a state registration, which is it's very.
Go.
All I have to do is be licensed in the state in which you reside, so I can operate anywhere around the country.
Okay, awesome. Outside of the U.S. would be them. You'd advise them to find a financial advisor, ask them the questions that you suggested, and go from there. And how can people get a hold of you if they want more, if they have more questions, and most importantly, want to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is www.raymondjames.com/legacy wealth. You can also email me at beth.correll, that's with 2 R's and 2 L's, at raymondjames.com. Or you can phone me at 317-795-1390.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely, for you listeners, have the information in the show notes or in the email, however you're seeing this. And you can always contact me if you can't figure out or can't find her information, and I will get that for you. So thank you so much, Beth, for tips for my listeners on how to level up, how to end the year strong financially. And oh my gosh, sorry, the cat just scared the living crap out of me. We're all just doing the best, right?
Yep. Well, thanks, Sandy, and I'll see you soon.
You. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.